So I'll be first talking about the pigmented tumors. Broadly speaking, whenever we are talking about tumors of the ocular surface, we are talking about commonly epithelial tumors. There are stromal tumors, but those will be covered by the next speaker. Now, when we talk about epithelial tumors of the ocular surface, there can be two types that we consider based on the color of the tumor at presentation. One is the pigmented tumors, those we call as melanocytic, and the others which are non-pigmented or non-melanocytic types. Here I am talking about melanocytic tumors today. Now, melanocytic tumors of conjunctiva actually arise from melanocytes which are located near the basal cells of epithelium. And the common types of melanocytic tumors that we see are nevi, racial melanosis, primary acquired melanosis, and melanoma on the surface arising from the surface of conjunctiva. Now let's go on and see how each one of these present and differentiate clinically from each other. So this is probably one of the most common types of pigmentation that we see on conjunctiva in our country. Here you see a patient with a diffuse bilateral irregular patchy type of pigmentation, more concentrated around the limbus if you notice carefully, and then gradually spreading around till the fornices, confined to the palpebral aperture, the exposed areas, and not reaching up to the fornices. Now this is most of the times present bilaterally. And so what they have here is a complexion associated melanosis, which used to be earlier called as racial melanosis. This is very common in our country. So if a patient presents with bilateral irregular diffuse pigmentation, which is usually present since childhood or gives a long history, what you're dealing with is a complexion associated melanosis. Next, most common type of pigmented lesion that we see on the eye surface is this. What is this? You see here, it's a relatively well-defined patch of pigmentation on the conjunctiva, on the bulbar conjunctiva in the interpalpebral fissure located near the limbus. And if you see these lesions on the slit lamp, you may notice that they have slight thickness to them. And also, if you notice more carefully, you will see that they have these tiny microcysts which may be there in 60% of these lesions. And once you see these microcysts in the lesion, then you can be reasonably certain that what you are seeing is a conjunctival nevus, which is mostly benign. Sometimes these pigmented lesions or nevi also may appear slightly darkish and associated with some feeder vessels or some reddishness. And usually, since these lesions are seen in childhood, and the parents will come worried that the pigmentation has increased and the redness has increased, and you excise these lesions for the purpose of ruling out an underlying melanoma, and what the pathologist tells you that it is nothing but some inflammation over added to the nevus. Now, this can be associated with the papillae formation on the upper tarsal conjunctiva as well in such situations where there is inflammation. And if you give a course of topical steroids, sometimes the inflammation goes down also. Nevi typically are located in the bulbar conjunctiva, as I mentioned, most commonly near the limbus, but you may also have nevi located on the plica or sometimes even on the caruncle. These nevi usually remain stable for a long time, but they can also grow in size and increase in vascularity as the child grows near puberty or sometimes in pregnancy also. These nevi may grow and may grow some sort of vascularity, but nothing to be afraid of. Nevi can also be amelanotic, which is less common in our country, but yes, at times you may see a patient who's got a slightly reddish or pinkish patch near the limbus with some feeder vessels. But if you notice carefully, you may see at times these typical microcysts within the lesion, and that will help you to characterize the lesion as a nevus. And if you excise them and send it for pathology, this may become out as an amelanotic nevus, which is rarely seen in our country. These nevi have less than 1% chance of conversion into a malignancy. Now, when do you suspect malignant transformation in a nevus? If the nevus onset occurs in adulthood, if there is a history of recent growth or color change happening in an adult who has had a nevus for all his life, if the location is other than the typical locations that I just mentioned, maybe it's in the fornices or on the tarsal conjunctiva, you see something like a pigmented patch, then you may suspect malignant transformation in those nevi more often. If they have very prominent feeder vessels, much more prominent and deeper and bigger than what I just showed, If you excise the nevus properly with clear margins, and again there is a recurrence after excision, then again you should suspect that there could be a possible malignant transformation of nevus, and in all such cases you need to treat these cases. Some systemic associations which one should know of when seeing nevi: the Carney complex, which may be associated with myxomas, and dysplastic nevus syndrome, which is actually a kind of a pre-malignant association. The next most common type of pigmentation that we see on the ocular surface is this. It's an irregular kind of pigmentation, not brownish, but slightly a grayish blue type of irregular type of pigmentation. Now, what is the difference here is that if you notice carefully that all the conjunctival vessels you can see overlying, and if you make a thin slit of the slit lamp of the light, then you will see that the pigmentation actually is not conjunctival but subconjunctival, arising from the sclera and the episcleral tissues. That is why the color is slightly different. It's more grayish or bluish rather than brown pigment that you see in conjunctival pigmentation. Now, this is called as melanocytosis. There can be various degrees of the spread of this pigmentation on the sclera. But what is important here is look at the eyelids also, and sometimes you will see that the eyelid skin is also pigmented along with the episcleral tissues. In such situations, it is called as oculodermal melanocytosis or nevus of Vota. Now, why this is important to take note of is because these patients have almost 1 in 400 chance of having uveal melanomas, and that is why you need to keep these patients under regular follow-ups. You also need to look at their palates, because if there is a palatal pigmentation, then these patients are at more risk for esophageal melanoma, and you look for hairline pigmentation because those cases may even have a meningeal melanoma. Moving on to the next very important type of pigmentation, this is primary acquired melanosis. Primary acquired melanosis is nothing but acquired melanosis which occurs later on in adult life, which is not associated with any predisposing ocular condition or disease or any other type of secondary cause of pigmentation. It just appears on its own and maybe diffuse, irregular kind of brown pigmentation on the ocular surface with ill-defined margins. Sometimes the patient will give history that it has become smaller or it has grown big again. Now, these are all cases of acquired melanosis, primary acquired melanosis. Nowadays, the term is shifted to CMIN or conjunctival melanocytic intraepithelial neoplasia. Now, these lesions can appear anywhere on the bulbar surface, even on the tarsal conjunctival surface, palpebral conjunctival surface. They may be unifocal or multifocal also. So you need to evaluate the ocular surface properly and need to mark these on a good diagram or take good photographs for a serial observation if you plan to observe these lesions. Primary acquired melanosis is a clinical term, and the conjunctival melanocytic intraepithelial neoplasia is the term used preferred on histopathology, which excludes those cases where there is just a proliferation of melanin pigment without actual true proliferation of melanocytes. So in CMIN, which is actually a more specific term, that is preferred nowadays over PAM. There is also a detailed classification of and scoring of these CMIN lesions for people who are interested to go into more details. But on an average, what we need to understand is that these patients may have up to 46% chance of conversion to melanoma if they have atypical cells, or they are called CMIN or PAM with atypia. There may be PAM lesions which don't have any atypia. So those are safe, and those cases may not have any risk of conversion to melanoma. But PAM with atypia is definitely significant. So this is an example of secondary acquired melanosis patient on anti-glaucoma medications for a long time. Sometimes you look into their fornices and they will have some pigmentation, but there will always be a history of long-term use of some sort of a medication. Next is the dreaded thing, that is conjunctival melanoma, which is the most dangerous kind of conjunctival pigmented lesion. Most of these cases are associated with PAM. Up to 75% of melanoma lesions arise on a background of PAM. 20% arise on a background of a conjunctival nevus, and almost 5% arise de novo. There are some known risk factors like dysplastic nevus syndrome, neurofibromatosis, xeroderma patients. They have slightly more chances of developing conjunctival melanoma. And recently, what has been discovered is BRAF mutation, which has been associated with conjunctival melanoma. Now, this is an example of a patient presenting with a thick nodular type of mass on the conjunctiva with a deeply pigmented component. Now, this seems to be a melanoma which has probably arisen from a long-standing conjunctival nevus. Another patient who presented with diffuse deep dark pigmentation of the fornices, the bulbar conjunctiva, pigmentation spilling over on and involving the lid margin, as well with a thick, large nodule in the superior fornix. Now, this is the type of conjunctival melanoma that you see, which has arisen from a background of PAM, or primary acquired melanosis. Another patient who has diffuse deep pigmentation of the fornix, inferior fornix, and a variable kind of pigmentation on the bulbar conjunctiva. The pigmentation is spilling onto the lid margin. You see nodules here and a nodular component here, thickening here, spreading into the upper lid also. Again, this is an example of a conjunctival melanoma which arose from a long-standing PAM. Now, that is why the PAM lesions are very significant and should not be ignored when you see them. At least keep them under regular follow-up or observation. Or if you see any of the danger signs, then you need to treat them. The indications of treatment will be discussed subsequently in the talk on the management of these lesions. Now, conjunctival melanomas are deadly tumors with almost 9 to 25% chance of systemic metastasis and almost 40% chance of regional lymph node metastasis. The common sites of metastasis are liver, lung, GIT, CNS, skin, and bones. And there is a full AJCC classification by which you can classify these melanoma lesions into TNM staging. So, based on whether in the eye it is confined to the bulbar conjunctiva or involving palpebral conjunctiva, or there is local invasion into the globe, eyelid, or orbit, or there is an extraocular invasion. Then the regional lymph node status is taken into account and distant metastasis is taken into account. So all these patients should be staged as per the latest AJCC classification also. So there is a significant 13 to 38% risk of melanoma related mortality at 10 years. And this is Western data. I believe that in India, probably the mortality would be much higher because these patients present much later to us. It's better that earlier these cases are picked up and some sort of treatment given. Better is the ultimate survival, long-term survival. Now, moving on to just a few examples of some other situations which may mimic conjunctival melanoma. Now, this young patient presented with a diffuse blackish pigmentation on the conjunctival surface. And now the only significant thing here was this was an acquired pigmentation, very deeply pigmented. You see the history, there was a history of TIA surgery. So this was a rare situation where actually the port was left slightly open and there was pigment leakage from the choroid, which was getting deposited under the conjunctiva and which scared the patient as to what is this black pigmented thing on my eye. And so the VIA surgeon went back in again, closed the ports tightly, and most of this pigmentation could be simply washed off. There are some other situations which you need to be aware of. Sometimes there is an OSSN. Dr. Fairuz will be talking more about OSSNs and non-pigmented tumors, but these non-pigmented OSSNs at times in India may have a layer of pigmentation over them, or these cells may be slightly more deeply pigmented than usual OSSN lesions. And these pigmented OSSNs are often confused as melanomas. But the only thing is that the prognosis is much better if the patient has a OSSN rather than a melanoma. So it's good for the patient if it turns out to be OSSN. Then sometimes we have these ciliary staphylomas actually, which are referred to us as cases of conjunctival melanoma. But if you look carefully, you will see a normal looking conjunctiva overlying, but you will see that the pigmentation is coming from subconjunctival area from the ciliary body. And this is thinned out sclera, and what you are seeing here is the scleral, is the choroidal hue or the choroidal pigmentation through the thinned out sclera. Rarely, you may also have a uveal melanoma, which is spread out through the sclera, which also may appear similarly at times, and you will see choroidal pigmentation under the conjunctiva that may also mimic a conjunctival melanoma to somebody who has a superficial look at the lesion. So in all these cases, a proper thorough examination and an awareness of pre-malignant conditions like primary acquired melanosis is very important. These cases often go missed in routine OPD practice. So I end my topic here. Thank you very much. Moving on to the next non-melanocytic tumors. Thank you.